program that is called Success First Hand, and that will be conducted from January onwards. In Hindustan Chamber Review, which we are publishing every month, we are dedicating the activities in the field of trade, commerce and industry, and 2 committees' activities are being chosen, and we are giving the articles on these 2 committees in Hindustan Review. I am very happy that our chamber is at present the only one which is producing this monthly journal, and is being appreciated by the government departments and the various institutions. And of course, we are going to be soon 1,000 strong members of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. That is our goal, and we will try to achieve it. As far as our Prime Minister's Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is concerned, again we have made a beginning in the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan by involving ourselves with the schools and the various associations. I am happy that government now is going ahead with the Ease of Business program through labor reforms, Companies Act amendment, land reforms, FDI cap of 49% in insurance, direct benefit transfers, deregulation of diesel pricing, coal ordinance, and e-auctioning of coal. And what do we see? The results in this 6 months of our successful Prime Minister's government. More than 100 billion worth of foreign investment is knocking at the doors of our country. India's growth rate now is more than 5.6% in the current level, and will be soon growing 6.4% in the next year. And the best part of it is, in the first attempt, we had success in our Mangalyam program, that is our Mars orbiter program. I think it was just a maiden attempt, and India is the first country in the world to succeed and sent its satellite to Mangalyaan, that means Mangal planet. And trade facilitation agreement has also been carried out. FDI has been relaxed in the real estate sector. Many startups all over the country in the field of entrepreneurship has also been developed, and they are enthusiastically taking part. So these are the achievements and results what we see. And as per our Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, our slogan is progress through enterprise. I am sure we are going to keep in touch with every information that Government of India is going to take, Government of Tamil Nadu is going to pursue, and we will be with these governments and their policies in progress through enterprise. I once again express my pleasure that Mr. S. Gurumurthy has been present here. Our economy in the past has done excellently well. Even it's going to do very well because of devotion and dedication of all the people concerned of our country. But then, I'm sure Mr. Gurumurthy will throw light on how our economy was there and how it is different from other world economies of the world. It's going to be really an educative journey, informative journey, a journey full of knowledge and information. Once again, our great pleasure in welcoming all the ladies and gentlemen, those who are present here, and I'm sure this inaugural session and the lecture series is going to be a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Dr. Dave, for giving an in-depth analysis of the programs and policies of the chamber this year, and also the policies of the government of the present day. But I will now call upon the chairman of the Expert Committee on Economic Affairs, Mr. V. Nagappan, to give us a detailed talk on the aim of the Indian economy lecture series. How did it happen and what went about while bringing this to the present audience?
Good evening, friends. I'm going to be very brief. It's my pleasure to welcome you all as Chairman of the Expert Committee on Hindustan Chamber of Commerce on Economic Affairs. This series of lecture on economy is the brainchild of our President, Dr. Dave. And the credit goes to him for coming out with such an idea which is more relevant at the current phase of our economy is going through. Having decided to conduct such a series of lecture, who else can be a better person than Mr. Gurumurthy to deliver this inaugural lecture? We are lucky to have him with us today. And in fact, just before the meeting, we were discussing, President and myself, that it's going to be a big challenge to find out equally, good speakers in the days to come. Hence, I will limit my speech to bare minimum so that we can hear more from him. Indian economy has got all the global factors working to its advantage now. The rupee is fairly stable in spite of US dollar index going up. I think US dollar is somewhere around 88 or 87 or 88 now from below 80. But the rupee is fairly stable compared to last year. The crude is crashing to new lows, unexpected. I mean, it's down by 50% than where it was earlier. And gold continues to fall below $1,200 level. And the inflation seems to be cooling down, though a bit on, like RBI governor rightly said, higher base effect could be a cause also. We have to look at some stability in the times to come. But the inflation is also cooling down. So all the factors, the global factors and internal factors are working to our advantage. Now the question is, are we going to take advantage of it? Will the reforms continue? And if it does, at what pace? Will the FDI pour in? Do we need FDI? If we need it, will it pour in? What will be the policy stand? And will interest rates come down? And if so, when is it likely to happen? These are all the questions which come to anybody's mind. In fact, a couple of television channels are doing a program. This is a regular issue. And whenever a year comes to an end, they come and ask you, as an expert, what has happened in the last 1 year? Whether you are an expert or not, they believe that you are an expert, so they'll come and ask you. What happened last year, what you expected, whether it is fulfilled or what is going to happen next year. So I was seriously thinking that, what I can tell them in the last 1 year, what happened. But then I said there is a lot of hope, at least the situation is much better, the business optimism has gone up. To that extent, I could tell them that a lot of things are expected to happen. And finally, before I conclude, I just want to leave a thought, because I attended a program some time back. A book release function where Mr. Gurumurthy was also there, and the book was on gold. And my view is very much in tune with that book. But, sir, I know your stand on gold, as I've been reading your article regularly on this subject. And forgive me if I am too naive or ignorant, and I'm somehow tempted to believe that the gold as an asset class seems to be overhyped in India, and looks to me like a conspiracy of the richest. Sorry again if I'm wrong, but it looks like a conspiracy of riches to keep the poor and middle class as middle class from progressing. As I said, I may be wrong, but if you look at the people in India, particularly when they travel to rural India or semi-urban cities, their entire life revolves around gold, as though, sometimes to an extent that they ignore studies of the children, and everything revolves around gold. Relationships trained, not to mention that. But at the same time, it is culturally integrated with our country, and I hope you will throw some light on it. More so, particularly if you look at China, which has grown without gold. I may be wrong, but they liberalized it about 10 years back. The private people can trade in gold, and now they're slowly liberalizing it. But there is an issue. But I once again welcome all of you on behalf of our chamber, and looking forward to the lecture like all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nagappan, for being very crisp. Ladies and gentlemen, Who does not know Mr. S. Gurumurthy? I'm sure everybody, not only in Chennai, but in the entire country knows he's an authority as far as the economy is concerned. He's an authority as far as Make in India is concerned. I think our Prime Minister has been advocating this after he became the Prime Minister. But here's a gentleman who's been advocating this throughout his life. Well, I would now, though it doesn't need any introduction, however, we thought it fit to introduce this personality to the August gathering. I now request Mr. Srikanth, the co-chairman of Expert Committee on Economic Affairs, to introduce Mr. S. Gurumurthy.
Eminent dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen, I think the MC of the evening has already made it clear that I have a very unenviable task in front of me to introduce an eminent personality like Shri C.A. S. Gurumurthy to this audience is like taking coal to Newcastle, and only we are left with the cliche, he needs no introduction. Nevertheless, let me attempt to give a briefing or some sort of an introduction to this very eminent and a multifaceted personality whom we all know. C.A. Swaminathan Gurumurthy is one of India's well-known chartered accountants and a highly respected and sought-after corporate advisor. He became the friend, guide and philosopher of the redoubtable Sri Ramnath Goenka and the Indian Express when he was 27 and his client was 72. Gurumurthy was undoubtedly a brilliant chartered accountant, an exceedingly astute amateur lawyer who became the close and trusted counselor of Ramnath Goenka on all matters. B.G. Verghese, a highly regarded editor, has described Sri Gurumurthy in his biography on Goenkaji thus. The Business Baron magazine rated Sri Gurumurthy's knowledge of economics, finance and accounts as outstanding. His association with the Indian Express and the newspaper's campaign against corporate misdeeds and corruption at high places in the mid and late 1980s is quite well known to all of us. In fact, Mr. Gurumurthy, a chartered accountant by qualification profession, is also well known as an investigative journalist. All this led to an all-out war between the government and the Indian Express, with Sri Gurumurthy leading the charge. The India Today magazine described the Goenka, Gurumurthy and Arun Shourie combination as the most lethal against the then government. This threesome combined tormented the most powerful government in India since independence. And as you all well aware, this led the Rajiv Gandhi's stunning defeat in the 1989 elections. Writing about the investigative writings of Gurumurthy, Hamish MacDonald, a very well-known Australian journalist, says in his book, The Polyester Baron, it must rank among the most powerful examples of investigative journalism anywhere in the world. Apart from his achievements as an investigative journalist and a writer, Sri Gurumurthy's original thinking on economic issues, his influence over corporate India, his social activism has added power to his already powerful personality. He mediated and solved many large corporate family issues like the Bajaj family issue, and also he was the advisor for the demerger of the Larsen and Toubro cement operations and the formation of Ultratech in favor of Grasim. He was repeatedly rated among the 50 most powerful persons in India in 1990 by Gentleman magazine, as the 8th most powerful, Business Baron magazine in 2004, as the 17th most powerful, India Today in 2005. But he never derived his extraordinary power from any formal position he occupied in the government or in any organization. His influence rested on the status he enjoyed as a person and as a writer of high integrity and exceptional courage. On the contrary, far from using his extraordinary powers for personal gain, he declined all positions that were offered to him by different governments and organizations. In fact, he keeps quoting his mentor Ramnath Goenka when he says that he was advised not to take any position which could be taken away from him. This is something that's very notable. And underplaying the wealth building as the sole drive of life, Sri Gurumurthy has preferred to do work like molding public opinion on issues of national importance, original studies and research in the community. He has travelled across the country along with his team of professionals and academics and has studied over 40 community-driven industrial clusters in the last 20 years. As you are all well aware, he regularly contributes to columns in The Hindu, The Business Line and The New Indian Express. He is a regular visiting faculty at IIT Bombay, where he has set up a new course for them, and at Tumkur University, where he is a distinguished professor. to guide their research faculty. The Sastra University is a distinguished professor of the Palkiwala Center for Legal Anthropology for the study of legal anthropology. He is also one of the well-known exponents of the Swadeshi movement in India, which has re-emerged 5 decades after India attained freedom in the face of the sudden onset of uncalibrated globalization. He is one of the All India co-conveners of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, SJM, a powerful opinion-making body on economic issues in India. A keen student of law, finance and accounts, politics, economics, philosophy and religion, Mr. Gurumurthy is a rare confluence of the traditional and the modern. Mr. Gurumurthy is thus an unbelievably multidimensional personality who has a message for the elite and the ordinary, for the traditional and the modern, for the world as much as for his own motherland, India. I am sure we are in for a very educative and very interesting treat this evening, and let me not be the person standing between you and Shri S. Gurumurthy. I request you all to put your hands together to welcome the Speaker of the